I'll pay everything back. That's what they're crying about, the money.
Last night, News 4 troubleshooter Jay Avila uncovered cases of suspected welfare fraud here in San Antonio. And tonight, he exposes another waste of taxpayer money that some government officials didn't even know was happening.
Groceries paid for with Lone Star cards intended for the poor here in this country were taken over the border into Mexico and in some cases then sold again.
An undercover investigator became so fed up by what's happening, she broke her silence to explain how this scheme works in tonight's Troubleshooters investigation.
And I know that some of the agents are also, fed up with all this.
We can't identify her because she works undercover tracking welfare fraud in South Texas. This state investigator has seen all kinds of abuses, like a wealthy couple applying for food stamp benefits.
Mr. was earning $23,000 a month. Mrs. was driving a Lexus. She drove in the Lexus when I interviewed her.
But it's what's happening at the border crossings with Mexico that have her so angry she's giving a rare interview. She says groceries purchased with taxpayer-funded Lone Star cards are being driven or walked across the border into Mexico.
They'll buy groceries here and take them to their families in Mexico, or it turns out that these people have businesses in Mexico, small groceries or restaurants, and they'll purchase the groceries for their businesses in Mexico.
How often is this happening?
It's on a daily basis.
The investigator shows us Lone Star, CHIP, and Medicaid cards confiscated at the border in just the past few months. You have to be living in the U.S. to get these, but she says some people sign up for benefits by giving a false address, usually a relative who lives in the States, or they just buy the cards from someone who receives food stamp benefits.
There have been stops where the individual says, I purchased this card from so-and-so because she needed cash.
Another way non-U.S. citizens get the Lone Star cards is through their children, like the Mexican doctor who was stopped at one of the border bridges.
They asked her, why do you have this Lone Star card and Medicaid card if you live in Mexico? Well, that belongs to my children. My children were born in the U.S. and they're entitled to benefits.
That investigator says this is the busiest spot for smuggling groceries across the border, the international bridge that connects Brownsville to Matamoros.
She says when Customs and Border Patrol agents catch violators, they take away the Lone Star cards, and she cancels them so they can't be used again. The person's visa to enter the U.S. is also canceled, but prosecuting them for welfare fraud is virtually impossible. We wanted to know how easy it is for people to take items bought with your tax money into Mexico. So we went to a grocery store a few blocks from the border in the middle of the day. We saw this woman load up a basket with food and pay for it at the checkout with a Lone Star card that she pulls from her blouse. Then she rolls the cart outside to her car. We follow as she drives away to see where she's taking the groceries. She drives a short distance to the border checkpoint, and as we watch, she drives right through into Mexico. We confirmed the woman did use a Lone Star card that was issued to her, but an investigation is now underway to determine if she lives in the U.S. and why she took the groceries out of the country.
They're starting to search people going into Mexico.
Customs and Border Protection refused our request for an interview. But here's a statement we got from the USDA, which oversees the food stamp program. USDA is committed to meeting the highest standards when it comes to protecting taxpayer dollars and will aggressively respond to any fraud or misuse of vital program benefits. The state investigator says there needs to be an aggressive response to welfare fraud at the border that's shortchanging you, the taxpayers, and those who really need assistance.
It should sicken your stomach too when you see all this fraud come in because it's our tax dollars that are going to waste.
In Brownsville, I'm News 4 troubleshooter Jay Avila.